Commander Vexmar walked slowly to the front of the big room. His body was covered in old scars from many battles. The marks told stories of pain from 50 years ago, but they still hurt like they happened yesterday. Human Coalition War was over, but the memories never left him. The room was full of important people from different planets. They all sat in tall chairs, looking down at him. Their faces showed they did not want to be here. Some looked angry, others looked bored. But Vexmar knew this day would come. He had been waiting for it. "Honored Council," he said in a voice that filled the whole room. "I stand before you not as someone who wants to blame others, but as someone who saw the truth with his own eyes." Delegates moved in their seats. They seemed uncomfortable. Representative Thulkane from the hegemony was the first to speak. He was a big creature with 6 arms and sharp teeth. "Commander, we brought you here to tell us about the terrible things humans did during the war. We want to hear about their cruelty." Vexmar looked at Thulkane with his many eyes. "Each eye had seen things that would give nightmares to most beings. I will tell you what I saw. Nothing more, nothing less." He pressed a button, and lights filled the air above them. Pictures appeared showing a planet far away. "This is the Battle of Kepler 4 for to be," he said. 3 full coalition divisions went there to fight. That means 30,000 of our best soldiers. We went to fight against 1 human regiment. Only 800 human soldiers. We thought we would win in just a few days. The pictures showed a planet with no trees or water, just rocks and deep holes in the ground. The land looked angry and broken. The human commander was Major Kim Dae-ho. He was not very tall, and he did not look strong. We laughed when we first saw him. We thought this would be easy. Vexmar paused and looked around the room. We were wrong. For 6 months, those 800 humans kept us away. They used bombs they made from scraps. They knew every rock and every hole on that planet. But there was something else, something we had never seen before. What was it? Asked a small delegate with blue skin. They would not give up, ever. When we surrounded them, they fought harder. When we cut off their food, they found ways to eat. When we destroyed their weapons, they made new ones. But the strangest thing was not how they fought. It was what they did between battles. The room became very quiet. Everyone wanted to hear more. They sent us messages, Vexmar continued. Not threats or demands. They sent us poems, stories, pictures of their families. They wanted us to know who they were and why they were fighting. Major Kim Dae-ho sent me a letter written in my own language. It talked about his daughter back on Earth. She was only 5 years old. He said he fought not because he hated us, but because he loved her. Some delegates made sounds of surprise. Others looked confused. One day, our soldiers found a small box outside our camp. Inside was food, human food. It was still warm. There was also a note. It said, "We know you are far from home and hungry. This food is from our emergency supplies. We hope it helps you remember that we are all living beings under the same stars." Representative Thulkane stood up. His face was red with anger. "This is impossible. Humans are savage fighters. They kill without mercy." Vexmar looked at him calmly. "I thought the same thing. We all did. That is why we were so surprised when Corporal Park Ji-won risked his life to save 3 of our wounded soldiers, carried them to safety during a big battle. He could have let them die, could have taken their weapons. Instead, he gave them medical care and returned them to us. The room was so quiet that everyone could hear their own breathing. Major Kim Dae-ho's final message came on the last day of the battle. Our ships were ready to destroy the whole area. He knew his soldiers would all die. But his message was not angry. It was not full of hate, he said. "We die as free beings. Hope that someday you will understand what that means. We forgive you for what you must do. Please forgive us for what we had to do." Vexmar turned off the pictures. That battle changed everything for me. We won, but we did not feel like winners. It felt like we had destroyed something beautiful and important, something we did not understand. He looked at each delegate in the room. "I have 4 more stories to tell you. Each one will show you what humans really are. They are not the monsters we thought they were. They are something much more dangerous to empires like ours. They are hope with weapons. They are love that refuses to die." The commander sat down and waited. The room stayed quiet for a long time. Commander Vexmar stood up again. His old wounds ached as he moved, but his voice was strong. The battle that changed my heart happened at Titan Station. This was not a fight on a planet. This was a fight in space, on a big station that floated between the stars. He pressed the button again, and new pictures appeared in the air. The station was huge, like a small city made of metal and glass. It had long arms that reached out into space, and lights that blinked like stars. Captain Lee Minho was in charge of the humans there. He had only 200 Marines with him. He brought 10,000 of our best soldiers, our strongest fighters, our smartest commanders. We thought this would be over in one day. Delegate Kickster was a thin creature with long fingers. He moved forward in his chair. But the humans did not give up. No, Vexmar said. But what they did was something we had never seen before. They did not just prepare to fight, but they prepared to teach us something. The pictures showed the inside of the station. There were long hallways and big rooms. We surrounded them completely. No ships could come to help them. No food could reach them. No weapons could be brought to them. By all the rules of war, they should have put down their guns and surrendered. Vexmar walked closer to the pictures. But Captain Lee Minho did something strange. He told his soldiers to play music. Human music. All day and all night, music came from every speaker in the station. Songs about being free. Songs about loving your family. Songs about never giving up hope. Some delegates looked confused. Music, asked one. In the middle of a battle? Yes, but not just any music. Songs that made our soldiers think about their own homes, their own families. After the first week, many of our fighters asked to leave. They said the music made them too sad to fight. They said it reminded them of things they had lost. The room was very quiet. Everyone was listening carefully. Lieutenant Colonel Park Soo-jin was their chief engineer. Her job was to fix things and build things. But she did something that surprised us all. She turned every hallway into a place of beauty. She hung pictures on the walls. Pictures of Earth. Pictures of human children playing. Pictures of old people smiling. Vexmar's voice became softer. Every trap they set for us had a message next to it. Not a threat or a warning. A message about why life is important. One. Sin said, "We do not want to hurt you. We want to go home to our families. Please let us go home." Another said, "Every life is precious. Even in war, we should remember this." He paused and looked around the room. Our soldiers began to read these messages, began to think about what they meant. Some of our fighters started leaving food and water outside the human areas. They said they felt bad about keeping the humans trapped. Representative Thalkane made an angry noise. "This is foolish. War is war. There is no place for weakness." Looked at him with sad eyes. I thought the same thing. Until the reactor began to fail. The pictures changed to show the inside of the station. Red lights were flashing. Smoke was coming from broken machines. The station's power source was breaking down. Soon everyone inside would die. The air would become poison. The heat would become too much. It was a slow and painful way to die. Captain Lee Minho called all the civilians to the escape pods. Not just the human civilians. All of them, including the coalition prisoners they had captured, including the enemy soldiers who were hurt and could not fight. The delegates made sounds of surprise. "They saved their enemies?" asked one. "Yes." Lieutenant Colonel Park Soo-jin worked for hours to fix the escape pods. She made sure every civilian had a way to get to safety. She even gave the coalition prisoners extra food and water for their journey. Vexmar's voice was almost a whisper now. But the human Marines did not get in the escape pods. They stayed behind, all 200 of them. They knew they would die, but they would not leave their post. "Why?" asked Delegate Kickster. "They could have escaped too." Captain Lee Minho's final message explained everything. He spoke to us over the radio as his station was dying. He said, "We die free. We chose to stay here. We chose to save the innocent people. We chose to do what is right. We hope that someday you will understand what it means to live free. We hope you will choose to be free too." The room was completely silent. Some delegates were looking at the floor. Others were staring at the pictures in the air. When the station finally died, it did not explode like we expected. It just went dark. The music stopped. The lights went out. 200 human voices became quiet forever. But their message did not die with them. Vexmar sat down slowly. Many of our soldiers asked to go home after that day. Did not want to fight people who would die to save their enemies. They said they wanted to learn what it meant to be free. Commander Vexmar stood up once more. This time his voice was different. It was soft and full of respect, like he was talking about someone very special. There was one human who changed everything we thought we knew about war. Her name was Major Cho Hae-won. She worked alone, far from other human soldiers. The pictures in the air changed to show a map of space. There were 17 bright dots scattered across the darkness. These are 17 coalition dreadnoughts, our biggest and strongest warships. Each one was home to thousands of our best soldiers. Each one had weapons that could destroy entire planets. Representative Zelthera was a tall creature with silver skin and 4 arms. She stood up quickly. How is that possible? 1 human against 17 warships? Vexmar smiled, but it was a sad smile. We called her the Ghost of Proxima. She could get into our ships without anyone seeing her. She could move through our corridors like smoke. She could be there one moment and gone the next. He walked closer to the pictures. But Major Cho was not like other soldiers. She did not just break our ships and leave. She studied us first. She learned about each species in the coalition. She learned our languages, our customs, our fears, and our dreams. The delegates looked confused. Why would she do that? Asked one. Because she wanted to understand us. She spent months watching us, listening to us, learning about us. She knew which foods we liked. She knew what music made us happy. She knew what we missed most about our home planets. Vexmar touched something, hanging around his neck. It was a small, beautiful pendant made of blue stone. This is from my homeworld. It is very precious to my people. Major Cho somehow knew this. She left it for me on my ship. The room was very quiet. Everyone wanted to hear more. The first ship she visited was the dreadnought Kethmorin. It belonged to the hegemony. She got inside without setting off any alarms. She could have destroyed the whole ship and killed everyone. Instead, she fixed their broken water purifiers and left gifts for the crew. What kind of gifts? Asked Representative Zulthera. For the hegemony soldiers, she left small carvings made from earth wood. Each carving was shaped like something important to their culture. For the Vrex crew members, she left sweet flowers that smelled like their home planet. For the Kelleran engineers, she left crystals that sang when the wind blew through them. Vexmar's voice became even softer. But she also disabled their weapons. She made it so the ship could not hurt anyone, but she did not hurt the people inside. She left a note in perfect hegemony language. It said, I do not want to kill you. I want you to go home safely to your families. Please think about why we are fighting. The delegates were leaning forward now, listening carefully. Ship after ship, she did the same thing. She would sneak inside, learn about the crew, leave them gifts, and then make sure they could not fight anymore. But she never hurt anyone. She never killed anyone. She always left them a way to get home. This is impossible, said Representative Thulkane. No one could do this 17 times without being caught. Exmar looked at him. She was caught. Many times. But not the way you think. He touched his pendant again. She was caught by my ship's crew when our life support system failed. We were all going to die. The air was becoming poison. Heat was becoming too much to bear. Major Cho was somewhere in our ship doing her mission. She could have hidden and waited for us to die. Then she could have completed her work and left safely. Instead, she came to help us. The room was completely silent now. She worked for 6 hours to fix our life support system. She saved 400 coalition soldiers. She gave us clean air to breathe and cool water to drink. Only after she was sure we were safe did she finish her mission. She disabled our weapons, asked Delegate Kickster. Yes, but she also left something for each of us. For me, she left this pendant and a note written in perfect Kelleran script. My language is very difficult to learn, but she wrote it perfectly, the note said. Every life has value, even in war, even when we are enemies. I hope someday we can be friends instead. Vexamar looked around the room. She could have let us die. It would have been easier for her. It would have been safer for her. But she chose to save us. She chose to show us that humans value life more than victory. What happened to her? Asked Representative Zuthera quietly. She finished her mission on all 17 ships. Every crew was saved, every weapon was disabled, and every soldier received a gift that reminded them of home. Many of our ships stopped fighting after that. The crew said they could not attack people who had shown them such kindness. Vexmar sat down slowly. Major Chohei 1 taught us that the strongest weapon is not a gun or a bomb, it is understanding. It is caring about your enemy enough to learn who they really are. Commander Vexmar stood very still for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was strong and clear. The humans had a weapon that was more powerful than any bomb or gun. It was not made of metal or energy. It was made of something much more dangerous to empires like ours. He looked around the room at all the delegates. It was hope. The pictures in the air changed to show many different planets. Lines of light connected them, like a giant web spread across space. Colonel Yoon Jae-sung started something the humans called the Broken Chains Protocol. He and his soldiers went to planets across coalition space. But they did not come to fight battles. They came to free slaves. Delegate Morthic jumped up from his chair. It was a large, angry-looking creature with thick skin and sharp claws. Those were not slaves. Those were legitimate territorial acquisitions. We owned those planets legally. Vexmar turned to look at him. His many eyes were calm but serious. Did we really own other thinking beings? Did we have the right to make them work for us without pay? Did we have the right to take their children away from them? Morthic's face became red with anger, but he sat down without saying anything. Sergeant Kim Soyoung was one of the first humans to land on the slave worlds. She was a small woman, not very strong-looking. The coalition guards laughed when they saw her. They thought she would be easy to capture. Vexmar walked closer to the pictures. But Sergeant Kim did not come to fight the guards. She came to talk to the slaves. She sat with them during their rest time. She shared her food with them. Asked them about their families, their dreams, their hopes. The delegates were listening carefully now. First thing she did was teach them to read. Many of the slave species had been forbidden to learn reading and writing, the coalition said. It was not necessary for workers. But Sergeant Kim brought books. Human books. Books about freedom and dignity and the right to choose your own life. The pictures showed groups of different alien species sitting together, looking at books and papers. She did not just teach them human ideas. She helped them remember their own cultures, their own stories, their own ways of thinking. They were people with minds and hearts and souls. Representative Zolthera leaned forward. But how did this help the humans win the war? Because, Vexmar said, when people remember that they are free, they will not stay slaves. Within 3 months, the slaves on 17 planets stopped working. They did not fight with weapons. They just stopped. The pictures changed to show empty factories and quiet mines. The coalition economy began to break down. We had built everything on the work of slaves. When they stopped working, everything stopped. But it was not just about stopping work, Vexmar continued. The slaves began to organize. They started schools to teach their children. They made art and music. They wrote poems and stories. They remembered who they were before we took them. Delegate Morthic stood up again. This is rebellion. This is illegal. Captain Nam Hyenwoo led the human forces on the slave worlds, Vexmar said, ignoring the angry delegate. We captured one of his reports to his commanders. In it, he wrote something that changed how I think about war. The room became very quiet. Everyone wanted to hear what the human captain had said. He wrote, "We cannot win by becoming our enemies. We win by showing everyone, including our enemies, what it means to be free. If we use the same methods as the coalition, we become the coalition. If we want to create a better galaxy, we must be better than those we fight." Some delegates made sounds of surprise. This was not what they expected to hear about human military tactics. The Broken Chains Protocol spread to 47 different species across coalition space. But the humans did not control these rebellions. They just gave the slaves the tools to free themselves. Knowledge, books, the idea that they deserved better lives. The pictures showed planet after planet where different species were learning to read, forming governments, and making their own choices. The humans did not conquer these worlds. They liberated them, and then they left, letting each species decide their own future. Vexmar's voice became softer. I visited one of these worlds after the war. It was a planet where the Thyerlock people had been forced to work in crystal mines for 300 years. When I arrived, I expected to find chaos and destruction. He paused, touching his pendant. Instead, I found schools and hospitals. I found art galleries and music halls. I found Thyerlock children playing in parks that had been built where the old slave barracks used to stand. The eldest Thyerlock, a woman named Kethera, told me something I will never forget. She said, "The humans did not give us freedom. They reminded us that we had never lost it. They showed us that freedom is not something others can give you or take away. It is something you carry inside your heart." Vexmar looked around the room at all the delegates. That is why the humans were so dangerous to us. They did not just fight for territory or resources. They fought for the idea that all thinking beings deserve to be free. Ideas once planted grow like seeds. Amanda Vexmar stood in the center of the great room without moving. His old, scarred body made long shadows on the floor. The lights above him made the shadows dance, but he was completely still. For a long time, nobody spoke. The silence was heavy, like the air before a storm. When he finally spoke, his voice was different. It was not the voice of a soldier giving a report. It was the voice of someone who was about to tell a painful truth. "Honored Council," he said slowly, "I did not come here today to tell you about human war crimes. I came here to confess our own crimes, the crimes of the Coalition." Room exploded with noise. Delegates stood up and shouted. Some banged their fists on their desks. Others pointed at Vexmar with anger. Representative Thulkin's voice was the loudest of all. "This is impossible. We are not the criminals. The humans are the enemies." But Vexmar's voice cut through all the shouting like a sharp knife. Coalition's greatest crime was not seeing what we really faced. We called the humans primitive savages. We said they were weak and stupid. We were wrong about everything. He pressed the button one last time. Pictures appeared in the air showing the faces of human soldiers. Men and women of different ages, all wearing the simple uniforms of Earth's military. Their faces looked tired but determined. Their eyes showed kindness even in the middle of war. These were not savages, Vexmar said. They were something we had never met before. They were a species that became stronger when they sacrificed for others. We became stronger by conquering others. They became stronger by saving others. He pointed to one of the faces in the pictures. General Bayinho was the leader of all. Human forces, he had weapons that could have killed every living thing on our planets. Biological weapons that would have made our people sick and die slowly. He could have ended the war in one day by using these weapons. The room became quieter. The delegates wanted to hear what happened next, but he chose not to use them. Even when we were winning battles, even when human soldiers were dying, he would not use weapons that would hurt innocent people. He said that victory was not worth becoming monsters. Vexmar pointed to another face. Admiral Choi Vejin commanded the human space fleet. She could have destroyed our home worlds. She had the power to turn our planets into burning rocks floating in space. Our families, our children, our elderly parents, all could have been killed. In minutes, he paused and looked around the room. Instead, when the Great Plague of 74 struck our worlds, she sent medical supplies. Human doctors, human medicines. She saved millions of Coalition lives while we were still fighting her people. Representative Zulthera stood up slowly. Why would they do this? Why would they help their enemies? Because Vexmar said they understood something we had forgotten during our centuries of conquest. True strength is not the power to destroy your enemies. True strength is the wisdom to turn your enemies into friends. He walked to the podium where his military medals and badges lay. These were symbols of his long service to the Coalition. Symbols of battles won and enemies defeated. He had worn them for 200 years with pride. Slowly, Carefully, he removed each metal from his uniform. He placed them on the podium one by one. Each one made a small sound as it touched the hard surface. The sound seemed very loud in the quiet room. "I have served the Coalition for 2 centuries," he said. "I have fought in 100 battles. Have conquered 20 worlds. I have followed every order without question. Today, I resign from the Coalition military." The delegates stared at him in shock. No one had ever resigned from the Coalition military before. It was unthinkable. "The humans taught me something more important than duty," Vexmar continued. "They taught me that some things are worth more than following orders. Some things are worth more than victory. Some things are worth more than power." He looked directly at each delegate in the room. His many eyes seemed to see into their hearts. He called us to be better than we were. They showed us a different way to live. A way without slaves, a way without fear. A way where different species could work together instead of fighting each other. His voice became softer, but somehow more powerful. Most of us were not listening. We were too proud. We were too sure that we were right. We were too afraid to change. He picked up his medals from the podium and held them in his hands. "These medals represent everything I used to believe in: conquest, domination, the right of the strong to rule the weak. But the humans showed me that these beliefs were wrong." He looked at the medals one last time, then set them down again. "I cannot serve a system that refuses to learn. Cannot fight for an empire that will not grow. I cannot follow leaders who choose power over wisdom." Vexmar walked toward the door of the great room. At the entrance, he turned back one final time. "The humans are offering us peace. They are offering us friendship. They are offering us a chance to be better than we have ever been. I pray that you are wise enough to listen to them. I pray that you are brave enough to change." The door closed behind him with a soft sound. The room stayed silent for a very long time.